Hi folks, Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, very emotional weekend, 30th anniversary of Ayrton and Roland's passing, and it was really marked, and I think it kind of engulfed the whole weekend. It's probably going to carry over to Monaco too. But for now, we're looking back at the Imola Grand Prix, which was, yeah, I don't know, I found it quite to be a bit of a boring race, but honestly, it was the race of two guys, really. It was Max versus Lando. I would like to have seen Oscar start from P2. That would have changed the whole complexity of the race. But before I move on, Jad, thoughts? Imola this year, the 31st running of the Grand Prix there. What were your initial thoughts and aftermath thoughts?
Yeah, it was an emotional weekend, even for my generation, a bit younger than yours, who maybe weren't watching that tragic weekend back in 1994. But, you know, like you and I have talked about Ayrton all the time, I've always have this intrigue about this guy. And whenever I watch documentaries about him, I watch his laps, his races, you know, I'm just at awe at this person. And yeah, I think he was given a great tribute by the drivers, by the fans, by everyone, something which he deserves. And it was nice as well that Roland Ratzenberger was given some time as well, because people tend to forget that he died just one day before Senna, because, you know, the greatness of Senna and everything. So yeah, he was given a nice tribute as well, especially with Sebastian Vettel when he did the run in the McLaren and he was raising both the Austrian and the Brazilian flags after that. So he was given the tribute that maybe Senna wanted to give him, because we know after the Senna's crash, they found an Austrian flag in his Williams. So Roland finally got his tribute, which is admirable, actually, and it was very nice for him. Race-wise, yeah, the racing was boring just until the final 10 laps when Lando started catching Max. Those were like edge of your seat stuff. It was great. And it was interesting to see how the McLaren evolved. The upgrade now, it's the second race with the upgrade. They know the car better. They know how to set it up better. And was for the first time this year, or for the first time in a couple of years, we can say actually the Red Bull car was not the fastest car of the weekend. It was the McLaren, especially in race trim. Ferrari had their upgrade as well. It showed much promise, but then qualifying was subdued for them. And yeah, I think they need more time to set up their car. Other than that, nothing much to say down the grid. Mercedes, they said they got their second part of the upgrade. So what? Nothing. Like Lewis said, they're in no man's land. Aston Martin had a disastrous race, especially with Alonso, a heavily upgraded car. I don't know what happened there. But yeah, we can thank Lando and Max for the final 10 laps. Two great talents just slugging it out. I know Lando said that he wanted a couple of laps more to get Max, but I don't think he could have done it. It was Max at the wheel.
To be honest, I think this is the first weekend that I've seen Red Bull so vulnerable. I don't think they had the best car in qualifying. And I need to touch back on qualifying, where Max was basically half a second quicker than Checo in Q2. And normally he's about 3/10, but that day he had to dig extra deep, and he found another 2/10, and he got pole. He shouldn't have got pole that day, but there was an absolutely extraordinary effort. And then on race day, obviously monitoring the race really closely, it was business as usual. The most stunning thing for me is watching the replay of everyone getting the exact identical start. By the time they got into the braking zone of into turn one, that like complex, exact same distance apart. It was absolutely incredible. Although I did feel that there was a gap that Norris left, that Leclerc could have stabbed at, but it was a bit early in the race, I guess. But in the end of the day, I think the fact is that McLaren have taken a huge step. You know, the way I'm looking at the pecking order, because I think that's very important, is Red Bull have always been the benchmark, and there's a bit of a gap with McLaren, Ferrari, and then Mercedes sort of thing. And Ferrari and McLaren are pretty much the same, but the last upgrades have put McLaren, I'm always thinking level with the Red Bull. Perhaps not quite. They'll have to give us 2 or 3 more races. But Imola is really a track where I didn't expect the Red Bull not to be fast. You know, I expect them to be slow at Monaco, but I expected them to have the handle on Imola, and they didn't. So to me, there's a chink in the armor. Maybe it coincides with Adrian Newey leaving. I don't know if such a thing can happen. I mean, maybe he took the eye off the ball when the Horner scandal erupted and hasn't really been thinking about it. I don't think the updates worked very well. And I think this was probably Max's most hard-fought victory because, like I said, in the beginning, I expected Max just to roar off into the distance, but Lando kept him pegged, and I don't think the lead got more than 6 to 8 seconds. And then when the last charge came, Max had to give it everything, and Lando was giving it everything. But I think Max had him covered. I think, end of the day, the race is certain length. So, yeah, 1, 2 more laps, whatever. End of the day, Max did just enough. And you could see by his emotions afterwards, because, they vary, that it was a special victory for him. In terms of the others, man, it was, like I say, for me, it was the Max and Lando show. Okay, I reported the whole race, but there was nothing else going on. Like you said, Fernando Alonso had one of those weekends you think, geez, winners, one of those weekends. And apart from that, Mercedes, well, no man's land, as Lewis said, as you said. I don't see them getting out of this hole. So the sooner Lewis gets out of there, the better. If I was Lewis, I'd say, listen, guys, take the car, give it to whoever you want. I'm going to go chill on the beach and get my head in the zone for Ferrari. But anyway, that's probably not going to happen. But there's no one else in the race. At the moment, it's Max versus the McLarens. A word on Piastri, the kid is good. The kid is super good. He might even be quicker than Lando, as we've discussed. I think Lando's just got a bit more experience. But I don't know. What were your thoughts on Oscar?
I agree. It was a shame that he had to get that grid penalty. We could have had a more interesting show up front if he was still there. And yeah, in qualifying, he was better. He was showing better pace. And don't forget, Lando, it was his second weekend with that upgrade, with that new car. Oscar, it was his first. So just to be on the pace from the start, it was very impressive from him. And yeah, just to follow up a bit on what you said, especially for Max. Honestly, this weekend it was all Max and no RB20. It was all Max doing the job. His qualifying was majestic, honestly, and what he did, okay, he had the tow from Hulkenberg, but end of the day, yeah, he delivered. He delivered while we were all expecting McLaren to be fighting for pole or even Ferrari, but they didn't. So yeah, that was all Max. As you said, Lando, I think he needs more experience fighting these race-winning moments. He needs to be a bit more aggressive. His predator instinct should be stronger. Max has that, and he just kept him. It was just impressive, mate, watching them. Honestly, no mistakes, on the limit, pushing, and none of them made any mistakes, and they just delivered. Like you said, Piastri was impressive. I'm waiting to see, in terms of pecking order, how Ferrari developed this car now. They have it. They have more data for next weekend. We'll see. Next weekend is going to be pretty interesting. Monaco, it's going to be a curveball, especially for Red Bull, because we know them. They don't go well around slow circuits like that. So they have the Singapore syndrome, as I called it once. So yeah, it's going to be interesting going from now. But I think we could be a bit happy that it's not going to be as boring as we thought at the start of the season.
Well, yeah, it's so close. Monaco is a very different track to Imola, and the fact that the McLarens were so quick at Imola, and they were extraordinarily quick at in Miami too. I think also to give guys like Williams a bit of a chance to run full downforce and see maybe they do something different. But honestly, at the moment, the first division is 2 teams, Red Bull and McLaren, with Ferrari in second division, and then third division Mercedes and the whole crowd, and then fifth division, sixth, all the other bunch. Although it's all closer, but when the guys at the top are not making mistakes, it's not that close. The cream is still very narrow at the top, and then the bottom it's not. Because the guys that are getting a look in, and let's mention Tsunoda. Tsunoda's really up to his game. He's looking like, if Checo doesn't up his game more, I mean, sorry, that was a sorrowful weekend for him. Not to make it into Q3, I think is with that car, it's like a sin. And then he just had a kind of an ordinary Grand Prix, and okay, he was catching some stuff, but he made mistakes. But you look at Lando, you look at Max, you look at Oscar, you look at Leclerc, and even Sainz, they weren't making mistakes, And Checo, you've got to watch out. I mean, Tsunoda's really giving himself a shot. I don't think he's material to match Max, but he might just be a guy who can do a better job than Checo. You know what I mean? You don't know, because he has matured. He definitely has matured, and the results are showing.
I agree about Tsunoda. He's doing a decent job. I wouldn't rule out Checo just yet. It's, you know, he's been doing a great job since the start of the season. So let's hope for his sake that this is a one-off and maybe he could pick up. He likes street circuits.
Look, I'm going to interrupt you there. Look, I understand where you're coming from, but that's okay at racing points. And when you're at the best car on the grid, I don't think that's an excuse. You can't. You have to be. He has to be 3/10 behind Max. Anything more is bad. And he was like, you know, half a second.
Yeah,
so
I know.
He's got to peg himself to Max, but you can't have these kind of gaps. Basically, Max went to war alone. What if he was up against the two McLarens? They would have lost that race because Checo's back in Monza. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's my thoughts. You know,
I agree.
There's nowhere to hide when you're in a big team. You can't deliver occasional good races and occasional bad races. You got to deliver like Max delivers. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. But the Red Bull wasn't the best car at Imola. Keep this in mind, okay? And Max, we know that he can deal with these bad cars much better than Checo. Like I'm saying, I just don't want to rule him out just after one race. Tsunoda, yes, he's being on an upward curve. Let's hope that he continues.
No, it's not one race. Sorry, it's not one race. He's made a lot of mistakes. You know, he's not been fantastic. I don't think he's been fantastic. You know, there was a period where he looked like he was doing, but he's just making too many errors again. For a guy, he's a veteran. So no, Checo's got to watch out. Checo's got to raise his game. Like I said, mark my word, do the maths. He has to be 3/10 behind Max. And if he's 3/10 behind Max and Max wins, he'll finish second. Simple. It's like simple maths. But he's not doing that. He's starting P11.
Yeah, look.
You know what? Listen, both V-carbs out qualified.
Yes. Look, I agree. I'm not saying he had a decent weekend, but don't forget, up till Imola, the guy was second in the drivers' championship. He just lost that in Imola because Leclerc got the podium. So, yeah.
Right, since when have you become a groupie for Perez? Move on. It's really box. Seriously, honestly, he was bad, and he's got to.
No, I just don't want to. I don't want to get ahead of myself. You know, it's just one race. We see the trend. He has a decent job up to now, but now we'll see.
The Mother Teresa of Mexico.
Okay.
Come on, dude.
Move on. Let's agree to disagree.
Okay, who else? Who else can we trash talk? No, that's all. I mean, you know, end of the day, the guys were very, very well behaved on the first lap. I thought turn one might be a bit carnageous. There's such a word. There might be a bit of carnage, but there wasn't. So, and they had a pretty clean Grand Prix.
They had enough incidents in practice, mate. So they've got enough of those, and then just kept it clean in the race because, you know, in practice, everyone was all over the place. All the drivers were just having these off moments. And yeah, the thing to look out for next time, we need to see if Red Bull arrive to a Grand Prix with a decent baseline setup. That hasn't been the case in Miami. That hasn't been the case in Imola. Let's see if they do the same at Monaco, because Christian Horner spoke after the race and he credited Sebastian Buemi for the work that he's done overnight in the team simulator just to get the new setup for Saturday. That's the setup that got them pole and, yeah, the win in the race. So we need to see if they do their homework better for Monaco.
Yeah, I think Monaco is going to be a great Grand Prix. The guys who lock out the front row, and I have a feeling that whoever locks out the front row, it'll be a 1-2, because the little gaps and the guys not making mistakes. And I'm thinking McLaren could lock that out. If they lock it out, it's in the bag. One thing I'm going to leave you guys with, and it's something for you to think about, kind of ambushing you on this. You know, everyone raves about Imola, and you should. It's a great circuit. Apart from the tragedies that have happened there, it's a very telling circuit. It's a very testing circuit. And as you can see, you know, these drivers are so good. They love the challenge of a circuit like that, because they're testing the limits. There was a lot of incidents during free practice and stuff because they're pushing the edge. But once they got in the rhythm, there wasn't as many mistakes as we thought, which just shows you that the level of these guys is super good. But at the same time, when the track is where it requires such perfection, and many guys can hit that perfection on a regular basis, you can't race. You know what I mean? Which is a problem. So Imola, as beautiful as it is as a racetrack, they've got to figure out a way for there to be racing, because there was not much racing going on. You know, Piastri's overtake was in the pits. Otherwise, they finished the same order that they started. So it's a problem, because as much as we love these old circuits, they're going to have to do something to them to make them racy, because yeah, this was a procession. Thank you, Max, for waking us up for the last 10 minutes, which was a very enthralling 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Jack?
mate, there's a simple solution for the tracks to become racier. Make the cars smaller.
Yeah, that's something. I don't know what the new regs are. Put it this way, it's always like this with regs, but these regs are also getting a lot of hate. So I'll see the cars when they come. For now, that is the fundamental problem. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You shouldn't adjust tracks to fit the cars. The cars should have been adjusted to fit the tracks.
Look,
that didn't happen.
Martin Brundle once said that these cars, they have the footprint of a Range Rover.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, it is what it is, and I feel sorry for them in Monaco, man. Jeez, that is tight. But yeah, anything you need to say in closing?
That's it. Honestly, yeah, I think we covered everything. We can look forward to another interesting race in Monaco. And yeah, thanks everyone for watching.
Yeah, and we'll have the Monaco Grand Prix pretty soon, back-to-backs. That's going to be fun. Thanks for watching this far. If you did, please give us a subscribe and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, catch you later.